Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of Hamilton Icons. I am your host and local real estate agent, Justin Little. This week, I am joined by Mike Morrison, who is the co-owner of F45 Ancaster and F45 Stoney Creek Mountain. Mike, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks for having me.
It's exciting. Of course, when I started this topic, I think I approached you before Christmas. I was thinking of doing this, and I want to interview entrepreneurs in Hamilton, and you guys immediately came to mind because I'm a huge F45 fanboy.
Sure are.
I had to wear the swag. Three of these actually. I got black and white too.
I didn't pay him to wear this.
I know. I love it. I'm a big supporter. Well, you know what it was? I wanted to wear like you wear a sweater because it's cold when you get there,
Right.
and then you take it off to work out.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I don't have too many sweaters. Like, I don't know. Just that
Like jogger.
like a
sweater
one
guy.
wear use in the morning or whatever. So I figured I'll just buy a few of these, but not wear them all the time. Just super comfortable.
No, for sure.
So it's good.
Sure. I have plethora of them at home.
Oh, yeah.
Ever wear them.
I bet. I know I'm getting into the socks now too.
Nice.
But yeah. So how did you get into the F45 space?
Yeah. So my wife and I, Julie, she and I have, ever since getting married, ever since we were really dating, knew that, in the future we each were interested in, being more entrepreneurial and not necessarily being stuck in the kind of the rat race life that you can often get caught up in. We were living in Toronto after university, and again, the rat race life that you're just grinding, you're constantly working. Sure, you're making a nice income and it feels good at the time. You're young and feeling like that's what you're supposed to be doing. But then before you know it, life's passing you by, you're burnt out, you're stressed, and we didn't really want to see how that storybook would end, because you already kind of know how that ends for a lot of people. And so we knew pretty early on that we wanted to get into something entrepreneurial, and we didn't really know what, but we're both kind of athletic background in terms of sports that we played growing up. Nothing crazy. It's not like either of us were going any sort of semi-pro or anything, but we played high-level sports growing up, and that's just kind of instilled in us. And so fitness was the natural kind of way that we leaned, and we found F45 while we were on a trip one time, and loved it from the get-go. Immediately looked into how to own it and bring it home to the Hamilton area.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you got two really good locations, like Ancaster, two dominant markets, right? What sports did you guys play?
So Julie was big on basketball. That was like kind of her main sport. I think she played softball and might have dabbled in a couple other sports, as we all do growing up. I, on the other hand, was the kid who just wanted to play everything and never really focus in on one in particular. So I played hockey, I played basketball. I played basketball. I'm tall. I played volleyball. I played baseball. I played tennis. What else did I dabble into? Swimming, lacrosse. So I played a whole bunch of sports and never really got really good at one of them.
Yeah, it's just, I guess generally it's naturally athletic, being able to jump in and play those sports.
I mean, as a taller person and more lean build, yeah, I guess I had the gift of that working for me.
See, as a shorter, not lean build Italian guy, which I'm half Italian, believe it or not, the last name. But I was completely unathletic. And actually my first time that I took athletics seriously was when I got into professional wrestling, and I did that briefly.
Oh, nice. Yes, I remember that was a big part of your life not too long ago.
Oh yeah, Rich Royce. And but it was actually F45 that got me into shape for it, just because of the type of workout that it is, it's a cool workout because you can go as hard as you want at it, or you can go as slow paced as you want.
100%.
Either way, which is really, really good about that. And then the class environment's always fun. Like, it's super easy to follow along. I think you guys have incredible coaches too.
Thank you.
Just from
I
my
agree.
experience. Yeah. Like, they're really good at making sure you're doing things correct and just keeping the energy levels up.
For sure.
So, where were you traveling that you tried F45 for the first time?
Oh, you're opening up a can of worms here. We were in California, and we were actually on a long trip. We actually took leave of absences from our full-time jobs at the time, and we were living out of a van. So it was a van life trip. We were traveling all across the States. We were planning on making our way back into Canada and then back to the States and making our way home. So we were in California, Pacific Palisades, actually, where the big fires were recently. And that kind of was almost like a throwback to that. And I was super curious of what was being impacted when the fires first started. and it turned out everything was impacted, obviously. But yeah, Pacific Palisades is where we stepped foot into F45 for the first time. Romans was the workout we did that day, and we walked out of it like mind blown kind of thing. We had done group fitness before, we had done our own thing at gyms before, and nothing had really compared to that. And so literally we were back in our van, and the next Starbucks we were at, we were on Wi-Fi and trying to figure out how you can, open one of these near home.
We got to talk about this van life for a minute here. Okay.
I knew it.
Because
do we have time? Or
I follow a ton of van life accounts on Instagram because I feel like it's always the ultimate escape fantasy of like, oh, if it all goes wrong, I'm gonna sell my house, buy a van, and that's it. I'm done. Did you guys buy a van? Did you rent a van?
We bought a van. We initially, so we went through the different thought processes. We first said, okay, we're going to buy a Sprinter van, just like a generic, like commercial van, and gut it ourselves. And we're going to install everything. And then we were quickly like, wait, we have no idea how to do this, nor do we have the time to figure this out, unless like half of our time off of work is going to be spent doing that. Then we considered renting it. That felt like it was just like a big waste of money and money that we didn't necessarily have saved up for it. And then we decided to buy one because it turned out you could essentially mortgage it, much like a home. And so we got a 20-year mortgage on a Sprinter van that was already outfitted. A Pleasure Way is what the brand was, and off we went.
I didn't know you could mortgage them, actually.
Exactly, I didn't either, and that made the most financial sense at the time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And then you traveled all over like the States, Canada. What was kind of?
Yeah, we left in the middle of winter, so we immediately headed due south, and we started around. We hit up Tennessee, we did the Panhandle, Florida, we went towards Texas, did a lot of time in various Texas cities. So Austin, we hit up various national parks, national forests. Then we hit Arizona, and then we hit California, started making our way up. And here comes another can of worms for you. The van got stolen from under our noses while we were out for dinner in the middle of the trip. And that was essentially the end of the trip. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. A lot of questions, a lot of follow-ups. So feel free or don't ask more questions. Okay. But the trip ended, and we were already well down the path of figuring out what F45 could look like for us. And so we ended up coming home, and van didn't get found until a little bit later. It was kind of off in a ditch somewhere after, I guess, someone had tried to ship it off overseas, and that didn't work out for them. And yeah, so we're already home. The trip was over. Now we had ample time left in our leave of absence to kind of figure out if both of us were going back to work, if one of us was, and if F45 was going to be a thing that we were going to pursue.
See, that's incredible. Like, I'm a huge believer that everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the van getting stolen is what I do have one question about that though. So you took the mortgage out on the van. Is there like insurance to cover that mortgage?
So I don't know if the insurance was on the mortgage, but the insurance was on the van, much like car insurance, right? And so that kind of kept us even keel. It actually, the fact that the van got found and then returned to us, almost like we had almost moved on and were okay with the option of like full replacement, which was the insurance policy, how that was going to work out for us if it was in fact stolen and lost forever. But the fact that they found it meant that it was returned to us, and then insurance was going to pay to get it back to a whole. And now we had to sell the van because we weren't going to keep the van. We ended up renting it out because during COVID, it became a very lucrative thing. And not lucrative, don't get me wrong. Like, it did well for us. It was just nice to have that. It was a lot of work, but like, people wanted to rent this thing out all summer long and get out from their cabin fever at home. Anyway, we eventually sold the van, and now it's off of our books.
That's hilarious. I would have never thought of that. It's amazing what you learn when you start talking to people.
For sure.
The van life.
Can of worms. That's
right.
Sure.
So leave of absence, van life, van gets stolen. Just so if you find F45, boom, into it.
Yeah.
And you go, now, are you guys from the Hamilton area? That's why you brought it here? Or?
So Julie she was born in Dundas, and I'm originally from Pickering, but she had already kind of convinced me that the west side's the best side of Toronto. And I'd agree with that. I love Hamilton now, and I consider myself a true Hamiltonian, and happy to have been here for now 7+ years. Yeah.
Nice. And then, so getting it started, what was that process like? Like, which location did you open first? Was
Ancaster.
Was it Ancaster? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we initially, the way it works in the franchise, many franchises, but in F45 franchise world is you kind of or at the time, maybe things have changed. You might need to kind of retell the story, but in F45 franchise worlds, you reserve the territory and then you start looking for spaces, and ideally you find one in that territory. But if you're unlucky, then maybe you need to find a different territory. Anyway, we initially, for whatever reason, we enjoyed the Grimsby market. We were actually considering buying property there, but then as we got more into it, we were struggling with like where exactly in Grimsby and the demographics of it. And there actually is now an F45 in Grimsby that's doing really well. So it may have worked out, but finding a lease at the time was also difficult. And so Ancaster became the natural go-to because that's where Julie's parents were. So we had just kind of like the familiarity with it. We found a lease pretty quickly. And so there we go. That's all she wrote. And that was our first location. And we haven't looked back, and it's been doing really well for going on 6 years now.
Yeah, I was going to ask when you started that one, 6 years. And then when did you open the Stoney Creek Mountain one?
So Stoney Creek Mountain, it was in the works. We had kind of signed the dotted line in January of 2020. So if you remember what that means, it means that two months later, all of a sudden this coronavirus and then to be called COVID became a thing. And I guess we had the option of walking away. We would have lost some money out of it, but we were confident in not only, getting through COVID as business owners, but just like the fitness world and the brand itself. And so we kind of stuck with it and found a lease in a territory that we were happy with, which was near where we were living at that time, which was in the mountain on the mountain in Stoney Creek. And yeah, so that was our second location that opened in December of 2020. Immediately in and out of closures, and those had been going on since March, of course, but continued for the next year after that. So Stoney Creek Mountain took a little while to really get off of its feet, and we're happy to say that we got out of it with two locations that are doing really well.
Yeah, Stoney Creek's going now. I know that. Like it's packed. Like it's good. It's people always there. It's good community too, with people there too.
For sure.
I always have fun when I go. I remember driving by it. I think the first time I saw it there was. It was obviously during COVID. I remember thinking in my mind, I hope that this place stays open because when these lockdowns are done, like I want to start going, right? Because I got my first taste of it downtown. Yes. And it was just so inconvenient to continue to go down. Like,
because we're living out this way.
Yeah, it was like 25 minutes there and 25 minutes back. And it was like, took me longer to drive than do the actual workout.
Right.
So I actually just stopped going for a couple of years just because of that right. So when it opened, I was like, oh my god, this is right here, it's perfect, right? And then we ended up getting into it. But it's funny, like when we were talking about how everything happens for a reason, it also reminded me too of how I remember thinking like, oh, I want to go to F45. I wish they had like an 8 a.m. class that I could go just before work. And then you guys ended up doing one. Like it's a good. How do you find out those class schedules? Just trial and error, or is it from corporate, like a
no
office, or how does it work?
No, it's not from corporate at all. So that's like there's various aspects of a franchise, and in F45, one of the aspects that's in your control would be class times and just figuring out what works for your demographic. It's not easy, that's for sure. What works at one location in Ancaster, 20 minutes down the road, doesn't necessarily jive. They're actually quite similar right now, but yeah, we always field questions and feedback from members saying, hey, would you ever consider running this time? Or, when people are maybe leaving the studio, we find out why. And oftentimes that can be because of scheduling challenges. So we're always making notes and considering what our next class time could be when it warrants it in terms of like classes are getting too full. Right now, the busiest class time at Stoney Creek Mountain is 5:45 in the morning. So we actually had that problem in Ancaster before COVID, and we took the 5:45 and we brought it even earlier. I think we even had it at 5:20 at one point with a second class like right after at like 6:05. So like barely even any time for people to get out the door before the next one's starting. That became challenging, and yeah, I don't know if moving the 5:45 to 5:20 is ever going to happen. I'm sure this could get some comments if members see it, like, yeah, do it. But yeah, no, we're always thinking about what time could be next. Noon class is one that's been heavily asked for, particularly from a cohort of newer members that came from another location. So yeah, we're considering the noon class right now.
Yeah. Did you do a new before? I'm trying to think.
We've tried it before, and both in Ancaster and Stoney Creek Mountain, it hasn't worked out. Whereas the Hamilton downtown location that you were at one point, they've always had the noon class, and I think it just works well for folks that work at McMaster that live in the area. So yeah, depending on the demographic and who happens to be in your studio at that given time in terms of your membership base, it can work. So while it may not have worked 2-3 years ago at Stoney Creek Mountain, it sounds like the noon class could be the next winner for us.
Maybe I'm on the 545s now, so
Would noon work for you?
I would only go to the 545s.
Okay, all right.
It's like I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Now it's like you have to do it. I feel like if I don't continue it, everybody there is going to know that I gave up on it. Right. So, but even the wait list now, it gets pretty. But so it's good for you guys, right? Personal question: how big is that wait list? Like, is there a cap on it?
We do have a cap. It's 10.
It's 10. Okay. So when it's full, I know, like, okay, this is
there's full class and full wait list, and then you only get to jump on the wait list if someone comes off. So yeah, we're noticing it. It's been heavy since the new year, and yeah, that's always a signal that like we need to consider if there's an option, and yeah, we hope that we can spread things around. But yeah, everyone seems to be and it's nice, right? Because it actually holds everyone a little bit more accountable to their own fitness routine. So when you have a class time that's not very busy, it's easy for people to not book in advance and therefore to just not go to their workouts. And so it works out well for everyone. If you have a full busy class that everyone enjoys, it's fun, and you get your workout in, and you're honest with yourself of making sure you get your 4 or 5 workouts in a week.
It is. The accountability is huge.
Yeah.
Like, how many times I've dragged my butt out of bed in -16 weather like to go, right? But it's like, you know what?
Habit now.
Yeah, we got to go, right? But it helps force that habit
for sure,
I find, right? And that it's just, before it was like, okay, just go to move. Now I'm actually doing like more of a serious workout. But
for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. What are some of your favorite parts about owning the franchise?
Favorite parts? I mean, it's awesome to see people experience a change in their life, obviously for the better, and when it revolves around something as crucial as their health, that's it kind of sends home the point and reminds us every single time, like when someone tells us, oh, did you know that I've lost 50 pounds with you guys over the last 2 years? And sometimes the ones that you don't even necessarily notice because they're not happening immediately, it's like watching grass grow, but that's the best way for them. And they tell you about how life-changing it's been for them. And the motto of F45 is team training, life-changing. And so, yeah, those life-changing impacts can be huge for them, but it's huge for us in terms of the feedback of like, this is why we got into this. And yeah, it's definitely our favorite part about it. I mean, it's also great to just work with people. It can be challenging as well, obviously, as we all know. Like, the more people you're working with in your day to day, it can have its challenges, but it is rewarding, and you meet and learn so much from people of different walks of life, and it's just really interesting to learn about people and what they do and what makes them tick, and learn about what they're going through in their day.
Yeah, and that's the thing. As much as the community is, you always got to think you're dealing with so many people. At the end of the day, you are running the business, so you got to deal with that side of it too, right? Yeah. And it is such, like, when you talk about the people losing the weight over 2 years, you're right. Like, watching grass grow, you don't necessarily notice it, but there's been some tremendous, like, because I've seen it now because I'm going for a couple of years, even in myself, but even the people that I see every day, just tremendous. Like, changes
for sure
as well.
And some people, they, whether it's through a challenge or just because they've just been going that hard out of the gates, you can see those changes immediately. And like, in 45 days, you can see a visible change in people, and those are amazing stories as well, obviously. But yeah, I think the longer term ones, like the people who have just been slow and steady and just like putting their head down and getting that routine built, and focusing on the nutrition at home and focusing on their sleep, all those things contribute to just an overall general healthier lifestyle. And those sometimes are like the most impactful ones, because it's like, oh wow, you made this change and now this is part of you. Like, there's no turning back. There's no yo-yoing here. If you've been doing this for 2 years, it's a habit now for you. And there's going to have to be some like big life change to all of a sudden make you stop focusing on your fitness and focusing on your health. So yeah, those kind of changes are really cool to see.
Yeah, you talk about habits a lot. It's actually one of my favorite books is Atomic Habits. I don't know if you read it.
No, I haven't.
You haven't? Okay.
No.
I'm gonna get you a copy. I give copies out to everybody because I love this book.
For sure.
Because it's the biggest thing about how even just reinforcing the habit, like they even talk about just, 1% or 0.01% of a day, like every day, just kind of increasing or being consistent with your habit.
Yeah.
Like I know everybody says that 27-day rule, but it's not really. Like you can form a habit a lot quicker if you just comfortably start getting into it. But you're right. When you start going for those 2 years, it just becomes ingrained and you can't imagine your life without it. But going to the gym, that gets you started. Then you start, like me, I start going to the earlier classes, but then you have to start going to bed early. So now you're going to bed earlier. Now you're not up late eating bad food, but now you're getting up early, putting in the effort. Okay, I need to get some protein in my body. I need to eat properly, right? So it starts to change everything. And then you notice it. Like I noticed it in my work too, just my ability to, like my stamina to be there. I actually was one of the big reasons I stopped drinking. I haven't drank now in over a year and a half. I stopped counting because Tony Robbins said I should have. Like, I saw a video of Tony. I was like, don't count days. It sounded so you stopped counting. So it's like, okay,
just listening to Tony.
He was like, because if you count, like, what are you counting for? He's like, are you gonna go back? And I was like, he's like, you don't drink now. And I was like, hey, you're right.
Yeah, who cares how long it's been? You just don't do it anymore.
But it came as a result of like, okay, I can get up early, right? So it's just crazy how one habit of like I started going at 9:30 just completely changed the direction of everything, right?
And there you have it. I just learned something about you in terms of the changes that you've had in your life, and so those kind of things that we hear about are our favorite part of it for sure.
Yeah, I know. I've dragged my wife into it. Got her on their chores. Oh yeah, yeah. She came Monday, and then she came today too, which was good. I think she'll stick it out, right? And it's cool having like her there, and then having now it is like a huge passion of mine, and being able to do it together is really cool.
Yeah, we quite frequently, whether it's spousal relationships or friends or family members that go together, that actually propels each of you in that direction even more so than if you're just doing it on your own. So yeah, working with someone else, having an accountability partner goes a long way for sure. And again, like you mentioned, it's just that trickle effect. So working out together will change your own lives in some way that you're going to look back on 6 months from now.
Yeah, and I honestly have never had so much fun in it. Like we're just laughing, like it's good. It's a good time.
And what's better than having a fitness routine that is fun? So that's great to hear.
Yeah, and that's a big thing because it's just easy. Show up, do it, whatever, right? And because she's newer to it, having the coaches there that are awesome, like helping her to figure out, okay, you're not doing this right. Which I think one of the biggest intimidating things for anybody starting exercise is not knowing how to do something, right? And like it's on the TV how to do it, but just have that added layer of the coaches stepping in to say, do it this way, or you might, you don't want to get hurt, that kind of thing. And they're teaching you the proper way. It's phenomenal. And then it's a comfortable space. It's not as intimidating as just walking into a gym and you got some guy like bench pressing like 600 pounds, like, like,
grunting and saddling
and stuff. This is nice. Show up. Right, do your workout. It's not intimidating environment.
And you're around a little bit of a family away from home because you go to the same class time every day, and you just become familiar with that group around you. So it works well for sure. And you've touched on a couple things in terms of why people are often intimidated to go to any fitness facility, but F45 included. I often hear on the phone like, "Oh, I don't know if I can do F45. I'm new to fitness. Like it looks like it's too intense for me. Do I have to be a certain fitness level?" My answer is always a hard no. Like, and I explain them why. Like, it's high intensity interval training, but that's just a term that means you're doing interval training as part of your the way you're working out. As you know, every class you're working at a work time and a rest time. But it can very much be a low intensity interval training if you want it to be. It's very customized. Like you could do the same workout as an athlete in a D1 soccer team as a 6-year-old woman who has a hip replacement as a 40-year-old male who's never worked out a day in his life before. You're all doing the same workout. It's just a matter of who's doing what pace in terms of how fast they're repping it out and how heavy they're lifting, but everyone's doing the same thing, and there's modifications. Our coaches, honestly, it's like invaluable work that they do because they're there to kind of oversee the entire group. There's 2 of them, so that helps, and they're not stuck at the front of the room as you know, having to kind of lead people with exactly what they're doing. That's what the TVs are for. But they go around and make sure that everyone's customizing their workout that's appropriate to their goals. And I think what people often forget about is that they're there to help them with their goals. So the more you share with them, the more they're interested in kind of coming around and helping you hit that goal and learning about you and pushing you forward. So
Yeah.
The intimidation factor is real with any fitness facility, but yeah, I like to think that we do a good job of making people realize that it's not as intimidating as they might think.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be. Like, that's a great point. Like, you're doing the same workout that somebody like an athlete's doing. And I see it in class because there's guys and girls like run circles around, like the shape they're in is wild. But when I first started, I couldn't always finish a workout, or during an exercise, if it's a 40 or 60 second, I might be able to do 30 seconds, or if it's push-ups, I can only do however many I can do. Right. And then take the rest. But then over time, now I can do it, right?
And that's okay. Like I remind people, no one's putting a gun to your head. As far as I'm aware, no coach has ever said to someone, no, stop resting, get to work. Yeah, they might do it in a fun manner just to kind of help challenge you, but no one's going to be upset with you if you need that extra rest and you take that extra rest. It's your workout. You're doing it for yourself.
Yeah, they're very encouraging. Like even Jamie this morning, my wife was doing something. You were like the bent over rows, and he was like, "Yeah, he's like, if you need a break, just stand up, 100%. Take a few seconds, reset, and then go back." Right. So it's good because it helps people ease into the exercise, right? I got now Joanna now always pushes me though. She comes up and she's like, Justin, she's like, come on, right? I'll be doing like, and then I know she's like, come on, Justin, right? Because she knows I can do more, and I'm just
makes you do.
Yeah, I'm just like cruising along, and she's like, all right, step it up, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. Okay,
I could definitely see Joe being that person for you.
Yeah, but it helps, right? Honestly, I appreciate it because sometimes you don't feel as motivated, but once you get going, I was like, you do a little bit more, you're like, yeah, you know what? Okay, I can
for sure,
and then it gives you that confidence.
For sure.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest challenges you find with these franchises?
I think, there's just always, customer service is always challenging, right? In any business, that's not groundbreaking. The more people you're working with, the more of a balancing act there is to try and do your best to keep everyone happy. But you have to just accept that you're never going to be able to make 100% of the population happy. And that comes down to class times. That comes down to, the exact workouts that they're doing. We've gotten feedback all the time, like, oh, that, what was one workout that always got haters? I think it was the David Beckham workout or...
Okay, yeah.
Gunnar Peterson. The Gunnar Peterson workout always got knocked, and for whatever reason, because I think it was more like counting your reps and doing as many reps as possible. So as soon as people had to start changing a little bit of what they were used to, and then they said they don't. I don't love that workout. Unfortunately, sometimes there's things that we can't change about a franchise world and what's on the TVs, whether we like the workout or not. Like that's just what it is, and we work in those parameters. But yeah, so whether it's workouts, class times, coaches, other members that are around the member that's giving the feedback, like you're never going to be able to appease everyone, and you do your best, even with weather, deciding whether to cancel a class or to stay open. You've got coaches to keep in mind, their safety. You want to get people's workout in. It's a balancing act, and you're just not going to be able to do it all and keep everyone happy. So that's 100% the biggest challenge. Other than that, I think it's just, you never know what the business world is going to throw at you, whether it's COVID. that was a big challenge, and we got through it. So just kind of having to be ready for whatever's coming at you. And I guess lastly, with any business, any entrepreneur would know that you're essentially married to your business, and sometimes it's drop everything and you have to do something, whether it's, after a snowstorm and we've canceled classes, I was at the studios setting it up on my own because, I'm not going to force someone to just go there to set up the workout floor. I'm going to get it done myself and do that at 11 p.m. when the family's in bed. So yeah, you just have to be ready for anything, but I think that kind of flexibility is a pro to being an entrepreneur and owning your own business. You kind of at the same time get that flexibility to make your own hours to the extent that it's possible, and that's one of the reasons we wanted to get into being entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Like, and that's part I think a lot of people don't see is like late at night you're doing the studio on your own, right? You're trying to get it set up. people don't see that effort that goes into it. They just walk through the doors, see the setup,
there.
right? Yeah. And I could see customer service definitely when you're dealing with a lot of people and a lot of different personalities. I could see that being interesting to navigate that. And you're completely right. You can't please everybody.
Yeah, you want
And,
to, but
yeah,
you can't. You have to just accept it.
yeah. And trying to please everybody is kind of when things go, I don't know. I feel like it's better. You want to obviously accommodate people as best as possible, but like I've come across people that you just can't. You know what I mean? People will always be people.
And my personality, Julie is much better at this, but my personality is I typically am a people pleaser. I want to be, right. So I get a little bit more anxious and stressed out when I'm not able to please everyone, and yeah, it can take its toll on you, but you just have to get better and better at just accepting certain things and just do your best. And kill with kindness is actually sometimes the way that we approach things. There's no need to burn any bridges and offend people or make people upset unnecessarily. Let's just work through whatever challenge there may be and come out of it on the other side.
Yeah, no, that's good. So that's if I have something, then I know I'm going to go to you now, not Julie. Oh God, people, please, it's not. Everybody knows. Don't talk to Julie. Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah, it's pretty cool, like to survive COVID, go through all this with the customer service, even aspect. Like how? So one thing about the classes, are the classes something you guys set every week, or is that come down from? Like the workouts, like,
the workouts,
like we're doing
themselves.
Romans today. We're doing like, this is the workout today.
That's what everyone in the world is doing at F45. I mean, as you may know, they recently gave studios the ability to switch the programming slightly, so customize it in that it used to be Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday was strength day across the board. Everyone in the world, whether you're in Australia, Canada, US, Europe, wherever, you were doing those workouts on those days, and then they gave the slight variation where now we took advantage of it. Monday, Wednesday, Friday was strength day, is strength day, and now we have Tuesday, Thursday cardio and Saturday, Sunday hybrid. And that's worked really well for both of our studios. But I know many studios around the world, I think it's about a 50-50 split, have kept the old way. And so for the foreseeable future, there is that option. But yeah, other than that, yes, it is driven. The programming, it's actually what many people don't realize is the athletics team of F45, who are a bunch of very smart individuals who are creating these workouts. It's programmed the way that scientifically workouts are meant to be programmed. They're done in 12-week series is what they're called, and each series of 12 weeks is broken down into 4-week phases. So you have 3 4-week phases. You have a base phase, a build phase, and a peak phase. So as much as that kind of information is not necessarily disseminated, we try to as best as we can, but it's just a lot of jargon for many people. A lot of people just like showing up and just doing the workout, but I think people need to know that this is programmed in a way that's meant to get you results and done in an intelligent way, as opposed to just like a random haphazard, let's just throw 9 stations at them today and not think about what it is. There's actually purpose behind what you're working out each day in terms of your muscle groups, and over a 12-week period, building on certain exercises that are the focus. So yeah, that's all brought to us by F45, and that is a valuable piece of the franchise world, is that it's kind of there for us, and our coaches and our team are not having to build the workouts every single day and decide on workouts every single day, much like other fitness facilities might have to.
That's really good. And I mean, there's so many things that I want to touch on from there. Like one, I could see where first you could run into customer service issues, like having the control over switching the days, right? The weight day. Personally, I love the Monday, Wednesday, Friday weight training day, right? I think a lot of people do, just because weight training is becoming a lot more popular just in culture of that's something that you need to do every single day, right? Is weights.
We're all losing muscle day by day as we get older. So staying strong is a very important part of being healthy.
Yeah. And the Sundays we're getting full, right? And so, I mean, that's pretty good that like you have that option, and it's good to know. I didn't realize there was the 3 phases. I knew that there was usually like 4 weeks of
blocks.
like whatever, right? Blocks, and then it would change.
Yeah.
I didn't realize there was, what was it? The build,
Yeah, so you have a build phase, or sorry, a base phase, and then a build phase and a peak phase. And then they kind of, so that would be a 12-week series is what they call it. And then they'll toss in 1 week in there, you know, some of those fun weeks that we have. So that would be 13 weeks that kind of gets repeated 4 times in a year. So you'll go through 4 of those kind of progressions over the course of a year. And in one 12-week series, you might be focused on a push movement, whether it's chest press or a squat. And then in other series, they're going to focus on certain pull movements, whether that's a chin up or I don't know, I can't even think of another example off the top of my head. But those kind of focus areas are kind of embedded in there subtly that you might not realize it, but you're meant to be training that focus area for a focused amount of time and then moving on to something else, so that, you know, you're always keeping the body guessing. You're always working on something new, whether it's shoulders, chest, quads, hamstrings, anything. So yeah, it's pretty cool that that's all kind of there for us and there for the members. And yeah, we do our best to kind of give that education, but it's a lot of information that, again, is sometimes jargon and might go over people's heads. But again, you touched on it earlier. People like to just show up and have the workout there for them. So hopefully they all know that it's done in a way that's going to be effective for their fitness.
Yeah, I see. And the coaches might talk about it. Like 5:45, I'm not registering too much. Like the start of that class, sometimes I'll get up there and I'll be like, "Oh wait, what are we doing again?" I think, but that's just me.
Maybe a lost puppy, like, where am I going next?
Yeah, like I remember my station. I'm like, all right, as long as I get to my station, we're good from here. Just watch the TV, right? But it's good to know that there's a method to it. Like you're kind of building your body in a balanced way. Yeah. Instead of just they're throwing these workouts together of like, oh, this would be good this week. Like to think that it's a course, like it's 12 weeks of doing it and then I guess resetting and then doing it. That's really cool to know they do that. I had no idea. I actually thought that it was okay, they just did these phases.
Yeah, I mean, they have like a database of hundreds of exercises, maybe it's over 1,000. And I would hope that people don't think that it's just like a Rolodex and just like spin the wheel and see what you get today. But yeah, it is. Yeah, there's rhyme to all there's rhyme and reason to it and a method to the madness, so to speak.
Yeah, I definitely thought it was I didn't know. Cause sometimes like, why are we doing back twice? But then they're slightly different back exercise.
Share with other people.
Yeah, I'm going to inform everybody in class now. If somebody complains, and be like, actually,
yeah, there you go.
You need to be doing it. Yeah. I also have a theory that I like to start at station 1. I shouldn't give the secret away, but I feel like it's supposed to flow a certain way.
There's probably something to that, but yeah, not everyone can start at station 1. There are a handful of people that I'm thinking about right now that like to start at station 1 and do their best to do it. Yeah,
you warm up right beside it, and I just wait. Come on, you gonna give me one or why? I should be giving my secret away now. If anybody from the 545s watching this now, they're all gonna they're gonna know it. Yeah. That's awesome. So where do you see things going from here? Like, where do you see the future? Do you think you would open more franchises? Do you want to continue to grow what you have? What's kind of the plan with everything?
I mean, at the time, when we wanted to do a second location, there was certainly in the back of our heads the idea that might turn into a third and maybe a fourth and fifth. We didn't really know at the time where the ceiling would be. But then with COVID, that kind of started to make us think like, okay, let's not put too many eggs in the not only the fitness basket, but also just like the entrepreneurial basket and just like the business world basket. As our personal lives evolved, we have had 2 kids since then, and yeah, I think at this point another studio is not on the table, but we're happy with the 2 studios, and we're excited to see where they go. I think another great thing about F45 that drew us to it in the first place is that they're very innovative. They have been since we've been part of the brand over 6 years now, and we're always seeing them change things, whether it's giving us some of that optionality that we talked about, new workouts, new equipment, the beauty of it is it's essentially an open box. When you get rid of all the equipment, it's an open box, and you can play around with it quite a bit. So there's lots always being thrown at us, and being considered for the future. So that allows us to have a little bit of a runway. When you compare it to what other fitness brands in the past have seen, is they kind of are trendy at first, and then they kind of faded away into the distance. But we feel like F45 has the legs to go further.
And it can always adapt, like you said. It's just a big box, right? So
Sure.
even if things in like popular methodology behind working out and physio science, whatever you would call it, I guess, changes, you guys are able to keep up with it and make those adjustments. That's exciting.
Yeah.
So 6 years into this journey now, if you had to go back, tell little Mike something. When he was getting this all started, what advice would you give yourself if you were to go through this process again and getting these things going?
I think it would be just kind of don't be too hard on yourself. At the end of the day, you know, it kind of goes with people pleasing, but my personality is like, you know, I want to do really well, and I want to put my all into anything I'm doing. I can also be a little bit like too detail oriented. So if you get too detail oriented when it comes to owning a business, you can sometimes forget the bigger picture. So for any entrepreneur that's starting their own business, I think being thoughtful about how you start and what processes and you know, how you're hiring and how you're selling and how you're pricing, putting a lot of thought into that, and not growing too fast can go a long way to setting yourself up for success. And COVID actually made us kind of slow down a little bit. That first year, we literally opened the doors to Ancaster 1 year to the day before we had to close the doors for COVID the first time. So yeah, 1 year into it, things were, again, F45 was really popular and really taking stride at the time. And so yeah, it was growing quite fast, and COVID almost forced us to slow down a little bit. And who knows where we'd be right now if COVID didn't happen. It'd be easy to say like we would have smashed it and been laughing, kind of thing. There's something to say about maybe if we didn't slow down, then it could have crumbled, right? A house of cards. So I think all entrepreneurs need to just be mindful and take things day by day, and take things slow at the start, so that you can set yourself up for the long run.
It's incredible. It's great advice. Really good advice. I think even anybody, when they're not starting out, but going through a slower period in business, that's a time to sort of go and reestablish your building blocks and make sure that you're ready for when things do pick back up. Because like you said, maybe if it did take off the ground really fast, you know, and there was no COVID, and you were rushing to do things, maybe it wouldn't have hit the same quality level that it's at now, right?
Sure. And then that's when things fall apart, and that's when you're scrambling, and yeah. So who really knows where we would be? Maybe COVID was a blessing in disguise. You never really know.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason.
Exactly. I'm as well.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come here. Really do.
For sure, Justin. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for everything you do with the studios. I love it. I'm a huge fan. Everybody else, if you haven't tried it, be sure to check it out. The Ancaster Stoney Creek Mountain location. Mike, thanks again.
I appreciate
it.
Yep.
All of you at home or in the car, wherever you're listening to this, thank you so much for tuning in. You can click the video that's going to appear on the screen. That'll take you to last week's episode. If you liked what you heard today, be sure to pop a like, subscribe. We'll talk to y'all again next time. Take care.